It's quite hard to believe it's already been 3 years since I posted my first video on this channel. I'm still overwhelmed by all the support the channel's received over these past 3 years, and especially this past year, so thanks to each and every one of you so much. Now, for my previous channel anniversaries, I've covered some of the Japanese exclusive Tales games, and this year I wanted to try something a bit different. I often get comments, messages, and sometimes even emails asking for various RPG recommendations. As such, today I wanted to try and give some recommendations for some old and recent RPGs, although I won't be mentioning any series or games I cover on the channel, seeing as if you watch my content, you would know whether or not I would recommend those titles. As well, I'm trying to keep my recommendations to games that are somewhat readily available, so I won't be recommending some of the super obscure or rare RPGs. That could be an entirely different video. If I don't mention a particular game, feel free to leave some recommendations of your own in the comments. With all that said, let's begin! I'm not really a fan of the Final Fantasy series, hence why you don't see me covering those games. I've only rarely ever been invested in the spin-off series like Final Fantasy Tactics or Kingdom Hearts, but Final Fantasy IX is an easy recommendation to just about anyone, and with the recent Steam release including some cheats and most notably some improved models for the characters, there has never been a better time to experience this classic. While its battle system and setting are pretty typical of the genre, Final Fantasy IX remains a masterpiece thanks to its incredibly likable cast, well-paced story, amazing overworld map, and incredible soundtrack. Whether you play the PlayStation 1 version, the mobile port, or this new Steam release, you're in for a great adventure. What it lacks in challenge is made up in charm. Physical discs aren't too hard to come across either, and they're still reasonably priced. Speaking of classic games available digitally, one of my personal favorite RPG series, Gran Dia, has 2 entries that you can download right now. The original Gran Dia is available for download on the PlayStation Network as a PlayStation Classic, whereas its sequel, Gran Dia 2, is available through Steam and Good Old Games. Both are exceptional RPGs that feature one of my favorite turn-based battle systems. I prefer the story and characters of the first game, which follows a group of kids chasing after adventure across the world, to the more angsty plot of the sequel, but the music and battle systems in both are ridiculously fun. The Gran Dia games are some of the few RPGs in which I actively seek out enemy encounters because battles are just that fun. Also, both feature excellent soundtracks that perfectly complement the battles. Both of these games are must-play RPGs, and now, seeing as they're both easily accessible, there's no excuse not to. While Sega may have had a rough run with their new set of Sonic games, they were able to create one of the best new RPG series of the last console generation. Valkyria Chronicles originally released for the PlayStation 3 in 2008, later becoming available on Steam last year and is seeing a PlayStation 4 release in a few months. Taking place in an alternate World War II setting, the story follows a squad of the Gallian militia as they fight in a war for freedom over their country from the oppressive empire. At the time, Valkyria Chronicles felt like a breath of fresh air due to its setting and narrative focusing on the horrors of war, love, and remembrance. But the gameplay is where the game really sets itself apart. It uses a turn-based strategy system for battles, with each unit's turn placing you in a third-person view of a soldier's view of the battlefield. You position your troops, aim their weapons, combining third-person shooting elements with those of a strategy role-playing game. The game's Canvas engine produces a beautiful art style that still looks great today. The game's PSP exclusive sequel is also available on the PlayStation Network, but I vastly prefer the original, which should not be missed. Sadly, the excellent third game of the series never saw a worldwide release, but can still be patched to English. Hopefully one day Sega will allow North American players to see more of this great series in the future. It is available through Steam, and anyone looking to snag a copy for the PlayStation 3 shouldn't have much issue in tracking that down, and if you do, it'll be fairly cheap. Overall, if you're someone looking for something a little bit different from your RPGs, definitely give this game a shot. I'm kinda cheating with this one, seeing as I'll be covering the game in a future video, but I feel it deserves the extra attention. Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne is the third entry in the mainline Shin Megami Tensei series, and the first to see a worldwide release back on the PlayStation 2. Now available through the PlayStation Network, this game should not be passed up. It's quite possibly my favorite game of the entire series. Nocturne is the story of a human caught up in the end of the world, the cost of his humanity, becoming half demon, half human. As the demi-fiend, the protagonist must assemble a force of powerful demons to determine the fate of the destroyed world. The game uses a beautiful cel-shaded look combined with dark lighting to create a wonderfully unique appearance that has aged quite well. The soundtrack uses ominous gritty guitar strings and haunting chanting, establishing a soundtrack that perfectly suits the tone of the game and remains distinct and memorable. While the game is incredibly unforgiving and the fusion system can feel random at times due to its complexity, Nocturne was an incredibly captivating 3D entry in the series. You honestly really can't go wrong with any of the Shin Megami Tensei games on the PlayStation 2, most of which are on the PlayStation Network, or the 3DS entries that go on sale quite often, but I'll get to those later in the retrospective. Despite what you may believe, I also enjoy playing through Western-styled RPGs. The Witcher series is a fascinating set of RPGs based on the Polish book series. While the first two entries were enjoyable, they had their quirks that kept them from being heralded as the best within the genre. But all of that changed with the release of the third entry. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is quite possibly one of the best Western-styled RPGs ever created. CD Projekt Red has created a beautiful, expansive world with an obscene amount of detail. I was blown away when I first played through the game last year. Every quest feels like it's meaningful due to the outstanding presentation of dialogue during cutscenes. The twists and turns of the plot will keep you invested, and the gameplay of The Witcher 3 is the most enthralling yet in the series. It feels so close to the lore, yet enjoyable to play. I would gush further about the game, but seeing as how The Witcher 3 claimed many Game of the Year awards and various other accolades, I think the game speaks for itself. If you have the ability to play it, do so. And being a modern game, The Witcher 3 is readily available and goes on sale frequently, so don't pass it up. And if you're playing on a computer, be sure to pick up the whole series to get the most out of this game. While I did review the most recent Souls game, I haven't really talked much about the series on this channel, which is odd since I adore the entirety of the Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Bloodborne series. Despite this game technically being a part of the series, I feel that Bloodborne is still a great entry point for anyone looking to become invested in the Souls type of games. Bloodborne is notable for its much faster paced combat, haunting and unsettling gothic setting, and overall tragic narrative. Like The Witcher 3, I can't really say anything about this game that hasn't already been stated. It's a phenomenal game, and one that PlayStation 4 owners should absolutely not miss. Hopefully we get a sequel at some point, or at the very least a port on the PC. Being arguably the PlayStation 4's best exclusive, Bloodborne is readily available, so there's no excuse to not play it if you own the system. Many people were upset over how Fire Emblem Fates had been split into 3 games. This was made worse when it was revealed that the Collector's Edition contained all 3 games on one cartridge. To those who would argue for the 3-path split, keep in mind there have been RPGs that have multiple differing branching plots offering new characters, changing story scenes, and 3 endings since the 90s. One excellent tactical franchise known for this is the Ogre Battle / Tactics Ogre series, starting on the Super Nintendo with Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, and seeing the latest release on the PSP. The franchise offers 2 distinct types of games: the Ogre Battle entries, which feature real-time strategy gameplay, with battles being handled automatically by the computer. Players are left only being able to offer some general commands. The main strategic component is managing your squads and units to ensure they work well together. Both the Super Nintendo entry and the even better follow-up on the Nintendo 64, Ogre Battle Person of Lordly Caliber, are available for download on the Wii Virtual Console for considerably cheaper prices than their physical counterparts. If you're going to play one, I would recommend Person of Lordly Caliber over March of the Black Queen, as it does update the gameplay and it's a bit more forgiving. On the other hand are the Tactics Ogre games, which predate Final Fantasy Tactics and were developed by members of the same development team, so you can expect to see a lot of similarities between them. The latest release of the series, which is a remake of a 1995 Super Famicom game, Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, is arguably one of the greatest remakes ever, offering a nostalgic presentation with sprites and beautiful portrait artwork. For fans of more traditional SRPGs, Tactics Ogre will appeal more than the battle games. Both Ogre Battle and Tactics Ogre offer great music, addictive character building systems, and very intriguing narratives that change to follow a law, chaos, or neutral path based on your in-game decisions and not on which version of the game you buy. Take notes, Intelligent Systems. Best of all, each path features different characters to recruit, new story sections, and completely different endings. If you only have time for one of these games, I can't recommend Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together enough. It has some excellent new features, such as the ability to rewind up to 50 turns in battle, or a new game plus feature that allows you to experience the other paths with your same units and enemies scaled to your level. Let Us Cling Together is available as a digital download on the PlayStation Network, which is playable on the PlayStation TV and Vita. While I haven't mentioned this series too often on this channel, I can't get enough of the Dragon Quest games. I'm a big fan of Akira Toriyama's character design, the music is always soothing and incredibly well composed. I also find the gameplay style of the series to be incredibly relaxing yet involved. While the series has seen something of a hiatus in the West for the past few years, it seems like with the impending release of the 3DS remake of Dragon Quest VII that the series is finally returning to Western shores, and hopefully stays that way. You can't really go wrong with any game in the Dragon Quest series, given that they all follow the same core gameplay formula quite faithfully, with some being more adventurous than others. However, I would personally recommend my favorite entry in the series, Dragon Quest V, Hand of the Heavenly Bride. Dragon Quest V originally released for the Super Famicom but received a DS remake that shipped worldwide and is easily the definitive version. This remake includes new monsters to recruit into your party, new minigames, a dialogue system to talk to party members outside of battle, a bonus dungeon upon completing the game, and a third potential bride for the hero. Dragon Quest V is the story of a hero from his birth until adulthood, offering a unique take on the Dragon Quest formula, allowing the player to develop a more intimate connection with the world and characters as they are able to see each grow and develop over the decades. The game also allows monsters to be recruited into your party, making for some interesting combinations available to you. The battle system is naturally your standard turn-based affair, which is something that the series is known for and seemingly will always implement. Now the music is excellent with some of the most memorable songs in the series, and as with each Dragon Quest game, the sound effects are the same iconic ones used in pretty much every game, making it kinda nostalgic for longtime fans. The DS remake also sports some hugely improved visuals over the original, taking advantage of the dual screens to make each location feel much larger. The game is also quite replayable, since you can choose a different bride for your protagonist, which will result in slightly different children who are party members for the last third of the game. While the DS copy can be tricky to track down, and not for reasonable prices, there also exists a mobile port of the game which, in a twist of fate, is of surprisingly high quality. In fact, so far, many of the Dragon Quest games have received similar port jobs, which, with the exception of Dragon Quest VIII, are all quite good, affordable, and are easy recommendations to any RPG fan wanting to play these classics on the go. Or to anyone who enjoys doing some grinding while they're on the toilet. You know the type of grinding I mean. Well, that's all for this video. I know there are plenty of excellent RPGs that I have missed, but I am looking at possibly creating more of these type of recommendation videos in the future, so if you'd be interested in that, let me know in the comments. Thanks again for all of your support over the past year, and here's to another year of enjoying some quality RPGs. As always, been Darren of the Gaming Pilgrimage. Till next time.